Voice of Yoga.
Welcome to the Institute for Personal Development, Kriya Yoga Ashram, where total consciousness is the new frontier.
Kriya Yoga is union of the individual with the divine. Join us as we explore the practices to initiate this process.
Good morning. Welcome to the Voice of Yoga. Let's talk consciousness. I am your hostess, Lisa Winton, and with me is Kenny Toy, also known as Swami Jayananda, founder of the Institute for Personal Development, located here in Hampton, New Hampshire. Good morning, Swami. Thank you for being here today. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing pretty good today. How about you?
Well, I'm doing great today, too. Thanks for asking. And we'd like to thank you all for tuning in. Today on The Voice of Yoga, we will talk about the possibilities gained by challenging the collective consensus that there is life in matter and we are going to die. Listen as we discuss the hypnosis of animal magnetism driven by the belief in two powers. In this podcast, we will explore the stages in development leading to the resolution of the physical body into a mental image capable of receiving divine revelation. Welcome to the Voice of Yoga. We are talking consciousness. Join the Kriya Yoga Spiritual Advance to get the light in your soul by accepting immortality. Swami, the title of today's show is Imprisonment by Mortal Belief. What can you tell us about this title?
Yeah, imprisonment by a belief in a physical body with an expiration date initially is very difficult to start to understand. But without any leadership in how to transcend the limiting belief, we die in our sin. I like to equate the term sin with the yoga term avidya, which means ignorance, or mistaking the impermanent for the permanent, which is the same as missing the mark. We accept the mortal sense of life and we miss the truth of being, which is the divine self. At first, it's difficult to understand that we are spirit without beginning or end, having this human experience. But it's a belief. We don't make ourselves spiritual. We come out of the belief in a false sense of existence.
So, Swami, the word imprisonment means something that we need to break out of. But how did we get to this point in the first place? How did we become imprisoned by mortal belief?
Yeah, it's a hypnotic state, the equivalent of what we experience when we have a dream. This is driven by the belief in two powers. So it is karmic. Everything is contingent upon what we desire, what we sow to. If we sow to the flesh, we are in the trap. But if we understand ourselves to be spirit, if we sow to the spirit, that is how we awaken ourselves from the false sense of existence. This entire world is an illusion. It's not real. Everything that we experience in this good and evil mental material experience is not real in the context of what is real, which is spirit, incorporeal, self-existent power. We're preoccupied with the dream. We're reacting to the testimony of our corporeal senses. We think we were born. We think we're going to die. None of this is the divine creation. Genesis 1, God makes everything. Everything is very good. God knows nothing about this human experience. In fact, Mary Baker Eddy told us there's no life, truth, intelligence, or substance in matter. Joel Goldsmith wrote in Beyond Words and Thoughts.
I'll read it. The heart and soul of the mystical life is an inner experience, and no matter what mode or method is used, That experience is possible if the basic motive is to discover truth. As long as you are just seeking to demonstrate health, supply, or companionship, however, there is no hope of attaining the God experience. In spite of how successful you may be in human achievement, you will never attain spiritual awareness. That comes only when you have died to caring about the outer scene and are willing to take life as it is and work from within toward the goal of God realization. The infinite way came into being when I realized that there is no God in the human world. If there were a God in the human world, rape, arson, murder, wars, dens of iniquity, drug addiction, and all the other afflictions of mankind would be impossible. Not one of these evidences of man's inhumanity to man could occur in the presence of God. Everything that is taking place in this world of ours is taking place only because there is no God in the human scene. End of the quote. Swami, your thoughts?
Once we are willing to challenge the orthodox religious folly we have all been following, that we have to die, and if we are good humans, then we get to go to heaven, all of which doesn't coincide with the message of the Christ. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. What we now want to start to do is understand what are the things that we can do to induce this God experience. What is required of us to awaken from the false sense of existence? You want to turn away from the false and reconnect with what is functioning everywhere always, the divine creation, the perfection of being.
Swami, how would we know if we're successful based on our human achievements versus success through divine intervention?
Mental material is a mix of good and bad. So the difference between finite good and the divine creation is the divine creation is absolute goodness. Human goodness is under material law. Material law is karmic law. For every action, there is an equal and an opposite reaction. In order for something to materialize, it splits from unity, manifests in half, and then leaves behind the complementary, unmanifested other part. This is the dynamics of what we call the principle of manifestation. That's why in the Bible it says, except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. If we do things with human will and personal sense, they can be done for good or for bad. The unfortunate thing about this is all the good done under karmic law has a complementary, unmanifested other bad part that comes with it. One of the reasons why Jesus tells us to take no thought. The difference between thinking and knowing, between working with your mortal mind and the operations of divine mind. Mortal mind works in duality. And even your good thoughts have a complementary, unmanifested bad part. This is the story of the wheat and the tares. You sow the seeds, but then things you didn't sow are growing. When things are done under divine law, they are done with absolute goodness. Divine law trumps karmic law. So this is one of the reasons why we're learning how to think differently, how to stop thinking with our five corporeal senses, and how to let divine mind do its knowing in our awareness. This is a graduation from sense to soul, where reality is shifting from a mental material basis under the law of karma to spiritual law, which is under the law of one power, absolute goodness without opposition. So when you do things spiritually, the first thing that you notice is that they have to be good. Anything made under spiritual law is eternal, perfect, changeless, and whole.
Swami, you use the phrase take no thought, which we know comes from the Bible. Does that mean the same thing as when Joel Goldsmith suggested that we have to die to care about the outer scene? Does that mean the same thing?
Well, it can. We have to die to this personal sense of self. We have to have a willingness to give up all for Christ. The personal sense of self is the veil. It's an obstruction. As long as we think we're a finite mortal being with needs, then there's no way of us knowing ourselves to be the Christ. And we are to know we are Christ, not in the world, while appearing as form in the world. This is what helps us tell the truth about the truth and the truth about the lie. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. When Joel Goldsmith says die, he has it in quotes. It's really a giving up of the belief in a false sense of self. There is no death in spiritual truth. Death is a concept that goes along with the false sense of existence. Once we challenge the reality system we're socialized with, and we build a mental landscape with a reality system that will support the divine idea, then you graduate from belief to what was called faith. Belief in divine truth graduates to faith, and faith is where your belief is starting to demonstrate. Belief in truth must resolve things into thoughts and then exchange the objects of sense for the divine idea. Jesus didn't come to do a patch-up job on God's handiwork. Jesus wasn't fixing human bodies. He was revealing the truth, the divine creation, where there is no sickness, suffering, disease, lack, or limitation.
So you had mentioned earlier there is a process, and we know Joel Goldsmith says we want to try to get this goal of God realization. Can you get us started on what the beginning part of this process should be?
Yeah, transcending the limits of body-bound awareness in metaphysical and mystical systems, you initiate the process. We have to graduate from thinking to knowing, develop ourselves physically, mentally, conceptually, and we need to be born again of spirit. Matter and mind must join together with a different source of sustenance than duality. And so humans have to be taught how to do this. If we just come into life and we live according to our instinct, preservation and survival is only going to get you so far. Even, say, for example, a wolf has to be taught how to hunt food. Humans have to be taught initially how to become a human before they can surrender or die or give up this false sense of existence for your true self, held, controlled, and governed by the divine law of eternal life. And each one of us has this connection, but we're not all equally sensitive or aware to this connection because we don't have the leadership in how to develop the faculty that enables us to perceive it.
We're going to pause right here to hear a word from our sponsor. Listeners, we'll be back with you in just a few moments. Kriya Yoga Spiritual Advance at Institute for Personal Development Incorporated, Kriya Yoga Ashram, is a complete program for anyone looking to demonstrate divine law with scientific certainty. To demonstrate divine law, conscious awareness of divine truth is necessary. The spiritual advance starts with the divine creation, beginning with the principle, life is perfect, resting in the knowledge life is eternal, formless, changeless, and absolute good. The practitioner retreats from the obstructions which are the veiling conditions of the mortal mind, then rests in the knowledge of the divine principle, thus revealing the precept, consciousness is experience. Visit the website www.ipdtransform.com and begin living under spiritual truth. Welcome back. For those of you just joining us, you're listening to The Voice of Yoga, and we are talking consciousness. So let's get back to talking about, you had said earlier, this union of matter and mind with spirit.
Yeah, in the Old Testament, it was called the New Covenant. Jesus said, unless a man be born again of water and the Spirit, he shall not know the kingdom of heaven. In yoga, yoga meaning union, the union of the individual with the divine. The reason I like the yoga so much is because it gives you the methodology, developing the faculty that enables us to receive divine revelation. And the nuts and bolts of this is really found in a metaphysical or a mystical system. You train the mind to serve spirit. You train the body to serve the mind. We're linking the form to the mind, and then let divine mind take over the scientific government of the self. It begins with the baptism and then the Holy Communion, because without what is called brahmacharya in yoga, which translates to mean carrier of Brahman, this union of the individual with the divine, without this inner marriage, we continue to draw from the outside world. If we draw from duality, from fear and limitation, that's what we become. This is what we call the physics of spirituality. Like attracts like. The biggest problem is when you're drawing from fear and limitation and you think you're becoming whole and complete. So you need an evidence procedure. When you purify the mind-body complex, purge it of all of your unnecessary dependencies, and you prepare an inner environment that is hospitable to the invisible, intangible, divine omnipresence, then you invite divine mind into your awareness, then rebirth the physical body in spirit. When matter and mind come together with truth and wholeness, you will then be able to serve spirit. So we can't serve spirit as a finite mortal being. What John said, we serve spirit and in truth. Like attracts like. To know ourselves spiritually, there are things to learn about being spiritual so you don't make the mistake. Idea of sin, missing the mark, thinking you're spiritual when you are still bound up in the mental material concept. That's the title of this show, Imprisonment by the Belief.
Swami, let's get back to what you said before about being born of spirit. Can we do a deeper dive with that?
Yeah, develop the mental faculty by mastering the three modes of mortal thought. You can find this in the Bible, the Transfiguration, by taking James, Peter, and John to the mountaintop. Symbolically, the way you would translate that in yoga is first start by being born of spirit. You internalize spirit in the physical body. This initiates the progressive cycle. Matter and mind, driven by truth and wholeness, begins to grow. The physical body comes in with a pattern. It looks for food, mother approval. It's driven by preservation and survival. This is a defense mechanism for the false sense of self, however. We then develop human intelligence, developing mental functions, perception, reason, memory, intuition, to make choices based on a value system in accordance with universal order. Humans in the adult state don't need laws because they are virtuous by nature. Goodness is the nature of the divine. But if we continue to draw from fear and limitation, to live under the government of karmic law, how do we expect to gain the fruits of the Spirit? And so these are the steps we put into place. Once you have developed human intelligence, the next octave of that is being able to overcome the influence of world mind. World mind is the son of perdition. It is the activity of the five corporeal senses functioning in human consciousness. Once we overcome the testimony of the corporeal senses, we let divine mind take over the scientific government of our sense of self. The first stage of that is where you resolve the physical body into a mental image capable of receiving divine revelation. And then finally, in divine silence and stillness, we let divine mind exchange the objects of sense for the divine idea. And the symbolism for this is found in the Bible in the resurrection of Lazarus.
We have verses here from the Bible, and this is from John 8, verses 31 to 46, and I'll read it. Then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, If ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Answers the Jews that boasted of Abraham. They answered him, We be Abraham's seed, and were never in bondage to any man. How sayest thou, Ye shall be made free? Jesus answered them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, whosoever committeth sin is the servant of sin. And the servant abideth not in the house forever, but the Son abideth ever. If the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. I know that ye are Abraham's seed, but ye seek to kill me, because my word hath no place in you. I speak that which I have seen with my Father, and ye do that which ye have seen with your father. They answered and said unto him, Abraham is our father. Jesus saith unto them, If ye were Abraham's children, ye would do the works of Abraham. But now ye seek to kill me, a man that hath told you the truth, which I have heard of God. This did not Abraham. Ye do the deeds of your father. Then said they to him, We be not born of fornication, we have one Father, even God. Jesus said unto them, If God were your Father, ye would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from God. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me. Why do ye not understand my speech? Even because ye cannot hear my word. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar, and the father of it. And because I tell ye the truth, ye believe me not. Which of you convinceth me of sin? And if I say the truth, why do ye not believe me? He that is of God heareth God's words. Ye therefore hear them not, because ye are not of God. End of the verses. Swami, there's a lot of information here, but let's get started with when Jesus says, And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. What does he mean?
Yeah, the divine creation, to know the truth, God is running a perfect universe, sets us free from the belief in the false sense of existence. It liberates us from karmic law. And now we return to living under spiritual law, absolute goodness. Jesus is clearly trying to tell us we're in the wrong self. that if you're accepting yourself to be a finite mortal being, and you are living out from this human sense of self, you're living in sin. You're missing the mark. We don't get it. He says your father is a liar and a murderer. Why? Because the false sense of existence believes in death. There's only one life, and this divine life is your father. And if you are the child of the divine creative principle, then you never die. I like some of the terms Jesus gave us here. Yeah, he uses the term the Son. This is where he makes reference to the Christ. Like we were saying, we are to know that we are Christ. There's one God and one Son. When you start to shift your identity from physical to mental to spiritual, you graduate from the belief in the many into the oneness. There's only one spirit. There's not all of us, and we all have our own spirit. There's one life. And for us to know we are Christ, the Son of God, is what he is saying. And actually, he's telling us we are the children of this divine principle. I also like where he says, he that is of God hears God's words. Like attracts like. To be conscious of the divine creation, we must know ourselves in the way that we are known, which is spirit. And again, all of this is a process. There are things we can and we must do to initiate this developmental process, and then there are stages in the developmental process. We graduate from unconscious awareness to self-conscious awareness to superconscious awareness. Our belief grows into faith and then eventually understanding. But if we aren't doing the things required to do in order to induce the God experience, all of this is met with resistance. The false sense of self does not want to give up the jurisdiction of your sense of self. And so we will do anything that we can to hang on, but that's the fear of being alone. In order to be spiritual, you've got to be sensitive enough to hear the call and strong enough to walk a solitary path.
Swami, what would be your recommendation for us for the first step to attain spiritual awareness?
Well, I think if you start with your belief, challenge your belief. Start with a belief in the divine creation. Belief is the level playing field because we believe we're a finite mortal being. It's not a something. It is a concept about what's really here. But if you challenge your beliefs and you work with them, your belief in the divine principle will start to demonstrate. So you no longer have to stay at that level, which is basically what Orthodox religion did for humanity. It kept humanity at the level of belief. We believe in sickness, suffering, disease, lack, limitation. We believe in heaven. We believe in God. We believe in the devil. All of this is belief. It's human conjecture. It's not the truth.
Swami, thank you for your insights for today's podcast entitled Imprisonment by Mortal Belief. Listeners, be sure to visit the website www.ipdtransform.com. On any of the pages, as you scroll down, you'll see several buttons there that you could press to further your understandings. Swami, any final thoughts about today's program?
Well, I would like to encourage people to join the Kriya Yoga Spiritual Advance to get the light in your soul by accepting immortality. Namaste.
Thank you for listening to our program, The Voice of Yoga. This is Lisa Winton along with Swami Jayananda signing off. Have a wonderful Kriya Yoga realization. Namaste.